Bust it.
Hello, thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform. My name is Amechan. With the last day of Ait Fitri, the nation is still on a public holiday, so it's the time to also reflect on the significance of the celebrations that we dwelt so much on the messages the leaders dished out last Friday when the celebration started. But on the political turf, the presidential election scheduled for 2019 is getting more interesting. Ahmed Makarfi, former governor of Kaduna State and former head of the PDP, the interim caretaker committee, has thrown his hat to the ring. He says he will be contesting for the presidency under the platform of the PDP. Very interesting. The traffic is much within the PDP. Talk about Kabiru Turaki, talk about Sule Lamido, talk about Bafrawa. So many of them outside PDP, Oshowore, Jayegaskia, Ide, Elisha, so many of them is getting really very interesting. But we heard yesterday that Atiku Abubakar flew back into the country from the Lesser Hajj and will be resuming his consultations across Nigeria, especially in states controlled by the PDP. Rivers and Bayelsa, we hear, are his point of call. So you can see it's getting more interesting. In APC, it's all about President Muhammad Buhari. It's unlikely that any other aspirant will come up to declare his ambition when the big man has already said he will be seeking re-election. It was an unfortunate incident in Borno State, Damboa, yesterday. Some suicide bombers, females were told, detonated their IEDs. 20 persons were left dead and scores injured. It's very unfortunate because it's coming at a time efforts were being made to advise the people and encourage them to really return to their communities. One of them, Damboa, where they fled from a Boko Haram insurgency years back. So it tells the authorities in Nigeria that maybe it is not yet time to really get those of the IDP camps to their communities to continue with their lives. On Friday on this program, we told you about the objectives of one of the newly registered political parties, Justice Must Prevail Party, as far as the presidency for 2019 is concerned. After their meeting in Abuja, they came up with a resolution that if they achieve power, they will change the name of Nigeria to Pisonia. They didn't stop there. They also said they are going to be changing the name of the currency, our Naira, and swore to a note, barefooted. We brought all this to you. And we promise we'll be getting the leadership of the party to you, to, of course, for an interaction, to give us insights into some of these novel ideas they are talking about and hoping to implement when they come into power. We have the leadership of the party, Justice Must Prevail Party, in the studio with us this morning. But let me bring in my colleagues, Adebayo Bodori. Thank you so much for joining us.
Amechi, just as we are getting set for the 2019 presidential election, the election in Ekiti State is also less than a month away. And I can tell you over the weekend, I moved from Ikoro Ekiti to Umuoke. I moved from Ikere to Ise. I was in Ado Ekiti and I was in Oye, which means I cover almost the greater part of the states. And I can tell you that the campaigns are on. The posters, different colors, in their different colors and everything are all there. But one thing is very clear. We have 33 candidates already approved by INEC. One is already threatening court action because he said they didn't receive the form, one of the political parties. And the interesting out of it is that you just notice that only a few of the candidates have their posters, billboards on the streets and everywhere.
The main parties.
Yeah, even on radio, on the 4 radio stations there, they are the ones that will probably be hearing their jingles and all the rest. So it clearly shows that we have a large crowd, if I use that word, but only few seem to be very, very serious in contesting this election. And from Kano came the Salah message of the Emir of Kano. Very, very, and I think it's very, very instructive, and it's a tough message to the politicians, and I hope they will listen to him. He said he's afraid that as we are moving towards 2019, there is already friction, it's already building in the land, and it's easy for everybody to interpret what he meant by friction breathing. And when friction is building up, is that the totality of it that will be working towards tension. And when there is tension, there will be no peace in the country. It's a warning, very, very hard warning to the politicians to heed this advice. At least, if your essence is to serve humanity, then you must serve humanity when there is peace, not when there is tension, not when there is crisis. And the Sultan of Sokoto too also called on in the Salah message, is also concerned about the level of killings in the country, which he says is unending, and is calling on government to do something very fast to ensure that these killings we put an end to it. She just talk about what happened in the midst of celebration of Salah in Borno State, where for the first time 2,000 IDPs returned home to celebrate the Salah in their homes, not in the camp. But unfortunately, in Damboa, people were killed just as it is. The killings are just unending. The
situation in Kano is quite alarming. It's good the Emir of Kano raised that concern, and many people are aware of it, but few are talking about it. The feud between former governor of that state, Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, and the current governor Ganduje is one that has risen to very surprising and alarming height, and it appears a lot will happen come 2019. The preaching from the Emir has come, but like Adeba Bodiri said, would they listen? It's unlikely, if you ask me, except we walk the talk. We have to take steps, peace building efforts to really avert this dangerous situation in Kano State. Ijemo Samo has been on Ekiti State to touring that part of the state. What have you been seeing?
Well, it's interesting to know that the searchlight is beamed on Ekiti State, and what I noticed in that state is the peaceful campaign by different political party candidates, and it's so interesting because a lot of them do not just go out to campaign, they go to educate their people, because I was opportune to join one or two of the candidates' campaign. And 3 most strongest political parties in the state, the battle is going to be very tough, because the former governor, Kayode Fayemi, is not leaving any stone unturned to make sure that he gets back to power. According to him, is coming to recover the state and to put things right where he stopped. Then according to... He
forgot something in the government house?
Exactly, that's exactly what I asked. And for the PDP candidate, Professor Eleka, the master believe that continuity is the real way to follow. Then the SDP candidate struck me when I spoke with the man. A young 36-year-old man, very intelligent. I just wonder if we have people like that. That means we have gifts in this country.
You're already campaigning for him on the platform.
Because when I spoke with them outside politics, I learned 1 or 2 things from the young man. And with this not too young to run law, it's good that we encourage these young people to go try their minds. Let them come out, even if you're not going to win. When you come out, people will know you. They will know.
Well, the SDP is not a pushover, especially in the southwest. It's been gaining grounds, taking over membership from the PDP and indeed so many other political parties. And it's heartwarming that they have a young person as a candidate, 36 years old. That will be history if he wins. The youngest governor since the return of democracy in 1999. We'll be putting more attention to the developments in Ekiti and Osun State ahead of that election. But let's welcome our colleague Uju Eje, who has also been keeping tabs on developments across the country from Abuja right through the holidays.
Amechi, we seem to be overlooking the APC National Convention that is just around the corner.
June 23.
Yes, this weekend precisely. And I guess we will have to now find out what the NPDP would end up doing after that convention. But going to Ekiti, I do not really believe that the other political parties are not serious about the elections. I think it's because our polity has been so monetized. It's so monetized that if you don't have the money, people may not even listen to you. And a lot of these other, if you could say, lesser political parties, even though they are not lesser, but their condition has made them. In theory, they are not lesser, but in reality, it may not be so. They don't have the money to throw away. You can imagine the government in power. Of course, they have every machinery they need. The other one, the national, the government at the center, they have every money that they need to pursue their aspiration. And then you look at these ones, some of them can't even print posters. So I think that we should keep looking towards a situation where the parties would really belong to the people, so that it won't be a matter of two political parties hijacking the scene. But every political party will be able to pull its weight. Even if your candidate is at the council level, you should be able to market that candidate effectively. As for the one of tension, God help us. Let our leaders keep talking. Let them keep talking to the people. We must not allow this nation to implode.
Shola Jaisim is also on the platform.
Yes, I'm actually talking about the APC convention, which is this Saturday, as you alluded to. I don't foresee what we saw in 2014 at the PDP convention, where some aggrieved members of that political party staged the walkout, moved to the Yad Adwa Center here in Abuja, and declared themselves members, people who are dissatisfied with the process in that party, moved en bloc into the now APC. But Professor Osibajo, the vice president, he said that he's trying to ensure that he keeps everybody together.
Talks are still ongoing.
Exactly. He's been termed the lead negotiator for these talks. How he is able to negotiate with the aggrieved members of not just the NPDP rather, but even other people within who have not identified themselves as members of the NDP but are not satisfied with the process and the situation in the ruling party becomes another thing. He will need a lot of wisdom, I'm sure, a lot of wisdom. At the introduction stage of the program, so you mentioned the party, the Justice Must Prevail party. And this morning when I got into the studios, I saw the leadership here. I said, here, today is today. Yes. And Mrs. Sarah Jubril, Mama Ethics is already in the studio.
Mama.
Yes. So that we can talk about
from them.
Yes, what their grandiose plans are. When he said Nigeria's name will be changed, I said, wow, I hope Flora Shaw and Robert Lugard will not wake up and say,
and be turning in their graves.
Yes, and what is happening?
Well, here, even without huge resources, we have a responsibility to give every party the opportunity to be heard by Nigerians, and as much as we can, we'll try to also bring them closer to you. I will be meeting with them very soon, but first, let's take a break. The APC as a party has denied that it asked its governors to contribute 250 million naira. So, as it were, is still a rumor. The issue of the use of smartphones, we have to leave it for another day. I think it was the resident electoral commissioner in Osun State that says it will be outlawed. But like our listeners suggested, it is one means of acquiring evidences from the different perpetrators of election fraud during the election. We'll be taking a look at it much later. But let's welcome members of the Justice Must Prevail Party, JMPP. We have with us in the studio is Acting National Chairman Dr. Olusegun Ijagbemi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
And Dr. Sarah Jubril, Mother of Nations. She needs no introduction. Thank you, ma, for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Okay, you said if you win this election in 2019, the presidential election, you're going to be changing the name of the country. Why did you decide to take this path?
Thank you very much for this question, which has been agitating the whole nation. Immediately we did the first ever press conference a few days ago. If you see the reference that we made to the strong tower of 17-point agenda of the new nation with a colorful, glorious destiny, you will find out that right there on the 14th floor is where we said a new country called Pisonia and a new currency called Pison shall be established. In building a structure of that kind of a 17-point story building, you don't start on the 14th floor. Of course,
you go to the foundation.
You have to start from the foundation, and we do not know from now when we'll get to that 14th floor. So it is the vision of this party to do that, but it is not from the first day. From the first day of this party, what we want to do is to establish a covenant foundation of 12 pillars of oath that will build a strong, trustable leadership. And the content of that oath is what was seen on the television, whereby people will swear to oath with their shoe off and with their caps out under the sun, with their feet on the soil of Nigeria, and then they will say they will not steal from 1 naira upwards, they will not give bribe or take,
and if they do,
and so on. And if they do, they will now ask with their own mouth and say, let the land of Nigeria upon which they stand barefooted, let the sun that is shining upon their head and the blood of the innocent Nigerians poison their food and swallow them up if they should steal from 1 naira upwards. So it's like a collateral. You are using your life as a collateral, so that you cannot commit crime. And we are not calling or so help me God, which is the traditional way of deceiving Nigerians, by politicians. They know in their heart that they're going to steal money, so they say so help me God, so that in case they are failure to not to obey the constitution, stealing the money, then they will say it's God that didn't help them, and God is very merciful. So now we are calling on the earth that doesn't communicate. You are calling on the sun that doesn't communicate. So if you steal any of these things, you don't have any
elements will go after you. Dr. Chibril, your perspective here. Now, is it a problem of name change, or is it structural, the problem with Nigeria?
It's both. They're going according to the procedure that Mr. Chairman has given. We're talking of the first floor. We lay the foundations, because we know the naming foundation of Nigeria was polluted, right? And some other person from outside the country conjured the name. What capacity? I don't think our leaders were even
from the Niger River Niger and Niger area, River Niger area.
Well, it was accepted just hookly like that. Nobody debated, and by the time you analyze it, I think it's not quite tidy. But however, we borne the name. The name also is part of the foundation. We are looking at what will save this present Nigeria from the pollution, the corruption business, and the violation of the oaths that have destroyed what the structuring you're talking about, not only physical structuring, you're also talking the social, economic, political structuring that everybody is asking for. But the structuring is actually talking about the justice that will correct the marginalizations, the imbalances that we have all seen quite openly in the country, not only in the political sector, the marginalization of the women, the marginalization of the youth. They are just coming up, the mouth talking and not the action doing of what it takes to have an integral governmental situation. Now the oath we're talking about is part of to take oath that you are going to do that, you shall not do that, so help me God. That is part of the mouth structuring defiance, because you cannot take oath and at the same time call the name of God to help you, and you have the audacity of refusing to comply with what you took in the public before the Mr. President, before the Almighty God, your Creator.
Who will take this oath? Is it those candidates who will be fielding for the election?
Even the party officials. I'm a party official now.
Okay, you took yours last week.
Yes, indeed. No,
your candidates, will they take this oath?
Yes, indeed, they will. Because we must flow in the same spirit of commitment. to the correction of the foundations of this country and for the preparations of the restoration that will cause Nigeria to answer her proper name. But we've imagined this, and by the time we have analysis, Nigerians are going to understand, yes. And after all, Mr. Chairman, you know, everybody knows that countries have changed their names before, even currencies. When it became really necessary, they want to realign the destiny.
Let me ask you this question. If you look across Africa, those who has discarded with the foreign colonial imposed names, they opted for local names that are relevant to their existence and their culture and their history. Take Tanzania, for instance. It used to be Tanganyika. It changed to Tanzania. So what many have advocated even at the time in 1976 when we changed our national anthem, and even others are now advocating that we should also go back to that same national anthem that is the one that seemed to unite us. What informed your own name different from picking a name that is localized, that is known to us? Some there was suggestion in 1976 that we should change our country to Songhai. Flowing from Songhai Empire. So, what informed your own name?
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, moderator. The new name that we are going to change to is not from first day of being in power, as we have said. It's on the 14th floor. So we have about 13 different things to do before the name is changed. So this name might not change until about 10 years after the regime of JMPP. So it's not a thing that you should expect from day one. But it's good for us to also know that the entire currency of Africa is being polluted from outside. Right now, every country has its currency being produced, and we have agents in the Central Bank of Africa that are bringing in this fake currency. So there's a need to change many things. That's why the currency will be changing, the name of the country will be changing together. So it's not from day one of coming to power, but it's a thing that must change. And through Nigeria, other African countries will be encouraged to change their currency. So right now, they are polluting our currency. Naira is being printed for the criminals at about $1 to
in other words, the Pisonia is not the final name. But let me ask you, the kind of ethical rebate that you're talking about sounds more spiritual. Is it a spiritual thing?
Yes.
Well, we don't do anything that without asking God.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, want me to come in? Yes, indeed, we are not ashamed at all. Now, listen, in this party, the number one name is the Almighty God, who commanded that this party must be for both Christians and Muslims, because the vision of the party was revealed to a Christian in the house, the bedroom of the friend of a Muslim. And no, you say why? Now the name, God commands that this party must be for both Christians and Muslims. The Almighty God that created the whole earth, Nigeria included, knows that we have a lot of friction between the Christians and the Muslims. He wants the unity of both Christians and Muslims. But check in the scriptures that it will be confirmed that the Almighty God gave the party, and then we are now building towards that.
Quickly, let me ask you, Ma. You are a strong member of the People's Democratic Party. You even, at a point, you are a presidential aspirant seeking for the ticket of the presidential ticket of the party. Why did you leave the PDP for this new party?
Because yesterday remains yesterday, and I didn't find solutions. And I don't think that when I have the responsibility of looking ahead, if something was imperfect before, and I'm now listening to that, I didn't see the type of definition of the inclusion of my Creator, the Almighty God,
so
in the PDP.
It in JMPP.
I got it. Okay. I got it. The name of the Almighty God, the name of my Duka or Ubangiji in the political party.
Dr. Sarah Jubri, as Mother of Nations within the new political party, Justice Must Prevail Party. She was joined by Dr. Olusegun Ijabemi, acting national chairman of the party. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
We'll be here again on Tuesday for another edition. Thank you for being part of it. My name is Amechi, and I will enjoy the rest of the holiday.
Bust it.